talking to me. Someday, one day never comes. You have to get uncomfortable to find out what's possible. Then, when you are on the edge of the unknown, which is where the magic happens. Over the last 2 days, we've driven down the road and paid attention to our surroundings. Now it's time to hit the road and do something with what we've learned. Our closing keynote address will provide you with insights about how you can reach your destination, your personal and professional goals. Dominic Rubino is a professional business coach, but don't worry, he's quite different than most. He's a real-world business coach. He has started, bought, and sold a few companies of his own. He started the Cabinetmaker Profit System because he's passionate about educating woodworkers about how to work smarter, not just harder. Join me in welcoming Dominic.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, great to be here with you, everybody. Thank you. Yep. We're going to start with an exercise. You're probably going to be energized by the end of today's presentation if you didn't just get a ton of takeaway from those two gentlemen there and those plant tours. There we go. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Dominic. How are you? Excited? Because some of you get to go home, but not until I'm done. It's embarrassing, and I don't like it when you walk out during my talk. So it's going to be interactive, though. I know you've been taking a lot of notes, but if you have your bound book, can you hold up that book right in front of you there? Yeah, that book there. If you've got that bound book, I'd like you to really start filling it in this portion because we've got some work to do now, right? We've learned a bunch of great things. As a matter of fact, our first order of business is an exercise that I know you guys are going to love. You're going to love this one? I'm not saying that's a safe idea, but how many of you are going to try that when you go home now? So I'd like you to go to your books, take your pen, open up your book to a blank page. You're going to need a couple pages after that, so try and find the first blank page you've got. And I'd like you to write down, as of this point, what are the biggest 3 takeaways? What are the sight lines that you've captured at this meeting? You know your spouse is going to ask you, what did you learn there in Chicago? And you're going to have to say something. So let's put the script together now so we all have the same story. So go ahead and write that down. Right, you should have at least 2 things down now. If you don't have a third, glance at your partner. See if you can grab one from there. We've got people whispering here. What did you get? What's the biggest takeaway? That's good. All right. I see a lot of you are refusing to make eye contact with me. I don't find that awkward at all. I still see some of you writing, which is great, so keep writing. If you've got more than 3, that's wonderful. What we're going to do now, for those of you who were not making eye contact with me, you knew what was coming next, is I'm going to get everybody to stand and turn to somebody you haven't spoken to before. So Chris, as an example, Chris is going to turn around and speak to these 2 gentlemen. So just turn and talk to somebody near you and tell them your biggest 3 takeaways. We're only going to take about 2 minutes to do this, okay? Because this is a potential for you guys to just take off and start drinking. That's not what this is.
Howdy, howdy. Okay,
I said hi to you earlier,
yeah,
but
exactly.
That's all right. We're right here.
So I do in a unique position, not a shop owner, is being a supplier. Very interesting. The lean is really fantastic. No, not at all. Again, I work for a distributor. Now I work for a manufacturer. So I thought the lean was really interesting, and how many shops really are aware of the lean practices.
Yeah, we've been exposed to lean a few times.
Yeah.
But way up here.
Yeah, exactly. But is it sifting down to maybe where it's going to be? You did. Wonderful.
The try to explain it to my wife or something, what's this lean thing is, get rid of something that drives you crazy every day. Say 2 seconds. And, I have one of my walks, one in my office, always first thing in the morning, I gotta get aggravated.
Of course. Exactly.
Take the 10 minutes to change the lock. Eliminate stress in your life.
Yeah.
I try to write down 3 things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but the whole outsourcing thing with new ventures, or I put new in parentheses, but it's still a cabinet shop. I'm building a cabinet shop.
Right.
And this whole closet thing, which is getting really, really huge. You realize that maybe the client, what we think is really important to the client, maybe isn't as important to the client as we think, and other things are. Describing that last piece to the wall, because the crafts thing is probably not as important to have a place for her to have a dip and a place for a jewelry and things for each time.
But how can you find that out, though? Can you find that out from the client, or no? Or no? I mean, how do you get some of those things from them? If you can, maybe you can't.
I think it's paying attention to
Yeah.
what they're saying instead of what I'm thinking.
Sure.
Because they all come with the pictures and stuff, and look at the pictures. Organization comes with life now.
Yes, it does.
So that's has nothing to do with what I'm building or how I'm describing something. It's like, can I incorporate organization in their life for them so that they feel peaceful and feel like there's value in paying for
Okay, let's keep going for 1 more minute. 1 more minute.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Focus on the process, not the person. I thought that was a really interesting statement. Yes.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I wrote systems development.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I thought that was a real. It said a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, we got a close up. Oh, good. I want to get this. Look natural. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of really, keywords, and again, being just more of an observer. Again, not in, where you guys, or most of you guys who are here, are cabinet makers. It's just fascinating stuff.
And then for me,
All right.
my biggest breakdown of all this is relationships.
Carla's taking pictures.
Yeah, networking. Yes.
Such a collaboration where it's not thinking,
I'm going to wind it down in a sec, Carla, so grab lots of good
Yeah.
pictures.
having the relationship with everybody, to me, is the most important.
Has it gotten better over the years?
Okay, if you can hear me, clap once.
People don't want to talk because they think you're.
Oh, if you can hear me, clap
you're going to
once.
steal an idea or something, whatever.
If you can hear me, clap
You don't make
twice.
everybody better. You know what I mean?
If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, just keep clapping. All right. Thanks, everybody. Was that good?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Is that the first time you've had a chance to talk? Really? That bistro was packed last night. Apparently, a lot of you learned more about Accenture than you wanted to know, though. You weren't talking to each other, right? Thank you, everybody. How was that for a warm-up exercise? Good? So I'm about to ask an awkward question, but it's awkward for me. It's like high school awkward. So are you guys ready for this? Because I'm going to look pretty bad in this. How many of you listened to my podcast? Oh, that's not bad. I had this flashback that it was going to be like high school. So do you know who I am? Do you want to go out? Who are you? Do you go to this school? All right. So some of you know me through the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. There's a couple of really good podcasts in the industry now. Jeff Finney's got one called the Push Through Podcast. Does anybody listen to that one? Great. Monica does. And then mine. Jeff's is good. But if you do like learning more about the business side of running a business that's in the woodworking business, then check out the podcast. If you don't like me today, don't bother. You won't, because all I do on that thing is talk. All right. But let me tell you a little bit about myself so you have some context. Last night, somebody asked me, what are your credentials? And I was like, well, I don't really have any. I'm not good at anything. I don't know what I do. I'll be honest with you. I'm always honest. Some of you will know this, but I'm actually an archaeologist. Amanda's like, oh my God, we needed to do a fact check on this guy. Yeah, I'm a forensic anthropologist. But it didn't take. I didn't like it, so I didn't keep doing that. Instead, I went out and I got into business right after university. I was in university for a very long time. I should be a surgeon. I'm not. I started, probably like a lot of you here, I just started my own businesses. So one of the first companies I started was a Christmas light installation company. It was called the Yo Ho Ho Light Co. I'm not kidding. But remember, I live in Vancouver, and so I had a staple gun and electric cables of lights, and I was a kid on an aluminum ladder. And so I got frizzy hair a lot. But I wanted to be in business for myself. I didn't know what I was going to do, and so I just kept pursuing that and pursuing that. I went into corporate for a while. That soul-sucking experience was very educational. I liked that. But I had to get out, and so I kept running side businesses, and those side businesses were not doing well at all. As a matter of fact, I got really good at opening companies that were doing okay, not good enough to kill, but not good enough to keep going. And so I became a business coach. And how many of you know 1,000 business coaches already? Yeah? Some of you are so polite, you're not even raising your hand. You're like, yeah. Another business coach. You'll come to learn that I've trained a lot of those people. So don't hate me for that. They're great people. But what happened is I became a business coach, and that's where everything changed for me. So in 1999, so I've literally been doing this since the turn of the century. Since 1999, I've been a professional business coach, and I've done well as a business coach because I came at it from being a lousy business owner who was just tired of failing, tired of, I knew that if I had a good week, I'd have coffee at a place called Tim Hortons. How many Canadians are here? Okay, so I'll say just McDonald's. I could have McDonald's coffee if I had a good week or Starbucks coffee if I had a great week, right? And so that's how I gauged my success, is where I could afford to have one coffee a week. I have 2 a day now, but I'm overdoing it. But that's how I gauged my success. But I wanted more than that, and so I started studying business because I knew that at the core I wasn't a very good business person. I had to get better. So I started studying that, and a great way to study that is also to put it in practice, and so that's why I became a business coach. While I was doing that, I became really good as a business coach. And so they asked me to speak. Go figure, here I am now. And I've been doing this for about 20 years. But I started selling some stuff on eBay. Who here remembers eBay? Does anybody use eBay? You're laughing. That's where we sell all our knives, yeah. But what I sold was used Atari and a television and ColecoVision games and systems. Junk. With a QUE at the end, like really good junk. And that was a disaster. We rented my uncle's 2-car garage, and it was pretty much packed. Like rats couldn't get in or out. That's how we killed them. We just suffocated in there with our inventory. So I went to the coffee shop one day, and I just sat down and I wrote. And this is something that I learned as a business coach, is that going for a coffee, and just sitting alone and writing is really important. I've already gotten you to do it today, right? What was the first exercise we did? What was the first part, Todd? Right. That's right. So write down 3 takeaways and then talk about it with somebody else, right? How often do you get to do that for yourself? Just go for a coffee with nobody bugging you. No cell phone, nothing. Just go to a coffee shop and have one coffee. Now, there is no coffee currently named Budweiser. So when you choose your coffee place, choose a coffee place, right? But anyways, I went to this coffee shop and I wrote down what I wanted my business to look like, because it wasn't good at the way it was. I was selling a lot of things from Canada, which is where I'm from, down to the States. That was okay. But because it was so slow at the border, our feedback rating was dropping like a rock. I needed something that was consistent, repeatable, reliable, scalable. We've all heard these words, right? And so after a long, long discussion with myself, crazy man in the corner, I decided to sell books, used books. And so before you know it, I had 250,000 used books in inventory, and I was selling used books online. You're like, well, I still don't see wood, Dom. You're still not talking to me about wood, right? So the book business was going well, but as I was a business coach, and I was on kind of a speaking circuit within that industry, somebody pulled me aside and said, hey, Dom, I've got this client who won't return my phone calls, which, by the way, that's not a client, right? Can you tell me how to sell them coaching services? And I'm like, if they're not returning your calls, they're not really a client, but tell me what they do. Well, it turned out they sold medications from Canada to the United States. And so I knew that I could do that as well. I did an ethics check first. It wasn't a client of mine. It wasn't my buddy's client at all, because the guy wasn't returning his phone call. But this other company was so busy, they turned off their fax machine. Who here remembers fax machines? Who used to make cabinetry to hold a fax machine in an office? You remember those things? Yeah. They would turn off their fax machine at 10 in the morning. And so because I already knew how to ship stuff from Canada to the States, I turned into a mail order pharmacy. So that's how you go from selling used junk to books to a mail order pharmacy. So I sold that company after we had hit 120 million US. in sales. But I built it all literally by doing the stuff I'm going to show you today. Like, none of this is magic. It's certainly not secret. It's being recorded. It's on the podcast. So if you're ever frustrated going, geez, I wish I could figure out just a way to do something different. I'm not saying I have the answer, but I'll bet you one of the guests on my show has the answer, right? Because I interview really cool people like yourselves and people who are around this industry. There's no selling on the podcast. We just talk, make bad jokes and laugh at them ourselves. It's kind of fun. But if you want to find the answers, I'm going to show you some answers today, or at the very least, I'm going to make you a little bit angry. Did you guys catch that, that self-edit? I'm going to make you a little bit angry with me, but that's the point. If I get you a little bit angry and that creates one little hot marble, and that hot marble goes in your ear and rolls around your brain for a while, and you get on the plane or you get in the car and you're like, oh, that Dominic, what does he know about change order, discipline? Wait, that's the second time that came up this weekend. Maybe. Change order, discipline, that doesn't make any sense. And if you're talking to yourself like a crazy person, maybe you should listen. So let me tell you a little bit about my background other than that. So if you want to see something I did that has nothing to do even more with cabinetry, I did a TED Talk that was about my daughter getting cyberbullied like a week after she got her cell phone. So ladies in the room, I'm not sure, maybe you can give me some insight, but girls and cell phones, it's insane. It's insane. So anyways, I did a talk on that. If you have a child going through cyberbullying, please watch that. At least you'll see how my family dealt with it. Everything's good now. She's good. But it was tough. But I also speak for the NKBA, AUMAC, which is the Canadian version of a woodworking association like AWI or the others. By the way, quick test. Does anybody know how to spell Canada? Yeah? C-A-N-A-D-A. Yeah. Did you guys get that? C-A-N-A-D-A. That's how we spell Canada, eh? And then I'll be in Dallas at the Woodworking Network show. I don't know who else is going to be there, but I write for that magazine as well. And then you can also read me in Forbes. Actually, I just got an approved article in Forbes. They wanted to do something for St. Patrick's Day. And so they sent me a message and said, hey, Dom, can you write an article about St. Patrick's Day and business coaching? I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I get the weird requests. I do. I get weird requests from them. The editor there likes me. But I'm like, I don't know what I've got here. But I thought about it for a bit. And I had a client years ago who renamed one of the reports called the End of Job Report, which is, granted, very boring. The End of Job Profitability Report. But he called it the Leprechaun Report because it was like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So if you read Forbes or if you read the article, you'll see it. So it should be fun. And now you'll know how leprechauns entered the business world. There's nothing what? Oh. All right, let's put our sight lines to work. You guys ready for this? A little more exercise for us? Putting our sight lines to work. I want you to think back to the 80s. How many of you were here? Okay, hold on, wait. How many of you were driving in the 80s? Hands up. In the late 80s. You know what? We thought you were born like in the 90s. Easy. Yeah. I just want to remind you of some of the things in the 80s. You guys remember the mixtape? You still have them? I don't even know what to play them on anymore. Okay, how about this one? Okay, who still has somebody on their team who rocks that haircut? Occasionally I see that in the shop. Do you? Does he tease it out too? And yeah, I mean that's so old that the ripped jeans are actually back in now. How about that cell phone? Yeah. Did you have that cell phone?
Did.
Yeah.
The brick.
The brick. I remember I was framing in construction, and my uncle dropped it off the building, like 3 floors down. He said, go get it. So I went and picked it up, and you got to put it back in your belt and climb up the ladder, and the thing still worked. The brick. I think I had the purple suit too. All right, what about the 90s? Who here started driving in the 90s? Wow. Okay. So this is what music became. MTV, 90s house music. What about this band? Just so you know, those guys are my age now, and I'm hot. How about the flip phone? My dad still has his flip phone and won't get rid of it. Sorry to any of you here who have a flip phone, but then you're just like my dad. All right, but I wanted you to do that exercise with me to take you back in time so we could go forward. I'll tell you a story about a client of mine. You know, it's 2020 right now. And so I did a coaching exercise with him, like just a couple of weeks ago. And I said, where were you 10 years ago? And he totally floored me. He's currently a $6.5 million business. He's exactly what all of you would be, a self-made person. But 10 years ago, he was a parking lot attendant in an underground booth. Like 10, can you imagine? Now, I don't know this gentleman, that's a stock photo. That's not my client, right? Who managed to take a picture of himself 10 years ago knowing he'd have a $6.5 million business presented in some room in Chicago one day. But can you imagine thinking that if he had ever written that in his book, in the year 2010, one day I will run a multi-million-dollar wood business. Would that be ludicrous? Would that be crazy? What about all of you when you started? What did you write in your book when you started? You probably didn't say, geez, I hope we just barely scrape by. Right? I didn't. I wanted to learn ways to do things better. And we're all proud of the craft we do. We put out great work, agreed? Right? We're proud of what we do. We should get paid for it. We heard that again here today. So where were you 10 years ago? But we're going to do an exercise now that I'm going to need you to go write in your books again for. I'm going to ask you to write out this grid. So take a moment and write it out. There's 4 columns. But fill in that left column in the top row first. And then we'll go through this together. Because the things we've learned this weekend are supposed to give us perspective. So I'll give you a minute to write that down, and then we'll start working through it together. If at any point during this closing keynote I ask you to share information, you never have to share personal information. And so the reason I tell you that is because I want you to write down what you truly want to write down. Nobody's going to make you change sheets with somebody else. Write what you want to write. And if you ever enter into a discussion, if you're talking to somebody else, you say what you want to say. Is that fair? So let's look at this. What's your age right now? I am 51. 51. 51 years old. My wife, we'll say she's 50. She's 52, but we'll put down 50 in case she watches this recording. Right? My parents. My dad's 80 right now. My mom's 75. Way to go, Dad. My kids, 11 and 14. What are your kids' ages? Some of you have more kids than others, so I'll give you a moment on this. Where's Thomas? Thomas is going to need a few minutes. What are your kids' ages right now in the year 2020? After that, your top office person. I didn't know what to write here, but what's somebody in the non-production side of your shop? Who's your top office person? Put down their name or their names. And then next to that, what are their ages? And you can guess if you're not allowed to ask. Now, we're going to take it to that next level. Your top shop person. That one person who, if they didn't show up, you would be sweating. Jorge, Giuseppe, Vlad, right? Who's that person, that top person? How old are they right now? What about your building? We don't care how old your building is, but what's the status of your building now? Do you own it? Do you rent it? Do you lease it? Is it the right size as it is right now? Is it too big? Is it in the wrong place? Is the area changing? And that's not good for where your business needs to be. Is parking too hard? What's the situation you've got right now? What about your revenue? as of 2020, what is your top line revenue in your company? Sales, yeah. Sales, top line sales. Let me ask something. How many people here are owners of their shops? Hands up? Okay. And then how many people here work in a shop? Not that the owners don't work. Sorry. Take that back. Shh. I wasn't supposed to do that. We have a secret handshake and everything. So I apologize. You may not know the top line revenue in your top sales in your shop, right? But write down as best you can. Profit. Can I tell you that revenue is a completely BS number? It's a useless number. It's a lie. If I fall into the fallacy of thinking that revenue is an indicator of my success, I'm lying to myself first. I can lie to you. Oh yeah, I've got a $12 million business, barely scraping by. But $12 million, who cares? I would rather have a $900,000 business with $800,000 in profit. Wouldn't you? So you would expect me, a business coach, to get up here and say, you know, you really need to grow your business. You need to be bigger. You need to sell more. Isn't that what you'd expect me to say? No. Just get really good at the size you're at. Maybe your company is already the perfect size. What if that was the case? But all you have to do now is get it as profitable as it can possibly be. With your current crew, could you double sales? With your current space, could you double sales? Giggling. The giggling wasn't scripted, just so you know. That's not what we were looking for. So, but think about that. Maybe your company's the perfect size now. If you're a $2 million revenue company, maybe you're supposed to be a $2 million revenue company. Yeah, I can talk to you all day about how to get to 3 or 4. I do that, no problem. But maybe 2 million's your number because you've got lifestyle. You've got your parents. When I asked you the age of your parents, what did you immediately start thinking? They're getting old. Yeah. Do you know what I learned this Christmas? When I had Christmas with my brother-in-laws? I'm going to be taking care of my in-laws. Right? Now, for those of you who are those in-laws, all right. Profit, and then what are your profit leaks? Think about this right now. You know your business inside and out. And this applies to people who are working on the floor, working in the office, or owners of the business. Where is the money currently leaking out of the business? It could be in time. It could be in materials. It could be in efforts. It could be in estimating. It could be in sales. It could be in project management. Where is it for your company? So write that down. Now, we're going to go forward and think about the year 2025, which is only 5 years away. It's actually a little bit less. Father Time, you cruel guy. It's already on its way. But let's call it 5 years. So in 5 years, I will be 56 years old. My wife will be 48. Look directly to the camera. Speak to the camera. My parents, how old will your parents be is the point. In the notes section next to that, that age has a meaning. That age has a meaning. I spoke with a guy earlier this year who took his eye off the business, as he said, but his father had already passed away and he took care of his mom, and now she's gone. And so, yeah, he took his eye off the business. He took care of his mom. Isn't that what you get to do? Isn't it? It would be my honor to take care of my parents. So next to my parents, write the notes that you want to write. What does that mean to you as a business owner, as a son, as a daughter? What about your kids? How old are your kids who are already talking about going to med school in Boston? Well, you said Boston because you live there. The rest of us think that sounds expensive, right? Or law school somewhere. What do your kids want to do? Maybe they don't want to go to school. Maybe there's another path in their life. My daughter's 14, she'll be 19 in 5 years. I do not like the fact that I'll be facing my first murder charge. First murder charge. My brother's got 3 daughters, and and they're all our kids are the same age. And he's already got his lines figured out. When the first boy shows up to the door, he's going to throw him a shotgun shell. And then when he catches it, he'll say, the next one's coming faster. You can all use that if you want to, yeah. So my daughter will be 19, right? How old will your kids be? And next to it, the important thing is in the notes section, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Top office person. There's a company that I work with. I've been working with them for years. They are around, they're large. So they're about 30 million in revenue. Their accountant is their top office person. And she talks sometimes about retiring, and they just go hug her. That's their system. Oh, yeah. And they hug her. And I'm like, I don't think that's a winning strategy here. We might need some sort of backup plan. Now, they're a fantastic family business. I mean, hugging is just a thing there. But at some point, she's going to say, I got to go. Right? So where's the backup plan? Now, to be very respectful, they don't even want to talk about a backup plan because they love her so much. She's been with the company forever. I get that. Wouldn't you get that? But when does that conversation have to come up? When do you have to start letting that person go towards retirement or doing something else, and then you've started to put a system in place to replace them? It sounds horrible to say replace them, but you can't just hug her forever every time she sort of brings it up, right? What about your top shop person? Now, if you are the top shop person, you might want to nudge that piece of paper over towards the owner. What's going to happen in 5 years? So I'll ask you this. It doesn't even have to be your top shop person, but think about the people on your crew right now. How many of them will be retiring in the next 5 years? Right? How many of them will have some life-changing situation? If you've got young people on your staff, how many of them are going to be getting married in the next couple of years? And that might mean a move. That might mean that they start to have kids, and maybe that means they're more stable with you. I don't know what it means because I don't know what's on your page, but think about that. All of this from just go get a coffee with yourself. That's all I want you to do is just go have a coffee by yourself. Turn off your phone, put it in the calendar, tell people in the office that you actually have a meeting with somebody. Put down meeting with Dominic. They're like, who's Dominic? I don't know, he's not even there. I'm just going by myself. Right? What about your building? Let's look at your building. What do you want out of your building? Many of you know this. Many of you have thought this, but haven't thought it out loud, and I'm going to be the guy who says it. I want you to go buy your building, because if you don't, you're in trouble. You don't have many options, right? When you go to sell this company one day, what will you be selling? Equipment, inventory, and goodwill. Goodwill is a really nice word for lawyers arguing. That's really it, especially if we're on a bid process, right? If we're just bidding on tenders. I get it, that's a great business and profit is there to be had, but where's the recurring revenue? If I'm going to come in as a buyer, and I've bought businesses before and I've sold businesses before, if I want to get a premium price for selling my business, I need to have ongoing contracts in place so that Todd will buy my business to get the contracts, right? One of the companies I didn't tell you about that I owned, actually I just sold this last February, I think Monica and Radu know about this one, is I was a franchisor of a business coaching organization for the last 13 years. So I trained people how to do this, how to be a business coach. When I bought the company, we had 6 franchisees. I sold it in February, we had 237 franchisees. All of them had 7-year franchise contracts. Todd, do you want to buy a company with 237 7-year franchise contracts? Yeah, no, you don't know about franchising, so you should say no. But 237 ongoing contracts, right? What if I didn't have a contract with all of those people? And so now going back to the real estate, you can sell the business, but keep the building and be a landlord. You might even be able to do that, so it's easier for your kids if you're going to sell it to them, or your staff if you're going to sell it to them, make it easier for them to buy it. Because they can buy the business, and you can stay the landlord. Those two things are separate. That's just the way I think. What do you want to say under the situation for your building? So think about that. In the notes section, put an action for yourself. What do you want to do about that? Revenue. What's your current revenue? Whatever that number is. Where do you think you'll be in 5 years? Remember my friend and client, 10 years ago, he was a parking lot attendant in an underground parkade. And now he's got a $6.5 million business. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Could you double? Should you double? Should you just add a couple $100,000 more? Should you get more efficient? Should you just be more profitable? What's your profit level now? Profit, by the way, and those of you who listen to the podcast will recognize this, profit is what lets you drive a nicer truck towing a bigger boat to an even prettier cottage on a nicer lake, if that's what you want to do. Profit loops right back for me to this. I've got 4 parents I have to take care of. 4. Have you looked at the cost of nursing and nursing homes? The price of real estate in Vancouver? Right? I get to do that. I get to take care of my parents and my in-laws, but that means something. I have to do something today. I can't just be surprised later. And so I don't know what that means for you, but I'm asking you, what are your sight lines? The more perspective we give ourselves, the more we can see, right? That's how we stop surprises from happening, by being prepared. And that's what I want you to do for this exercise here. And then think about the profit leaks you currently have. What are those profit leaks? You've already written them down. Next to each of those profit leaks that you wrote down, I'd like you to go write what you're going to do about it. So go ahead and write in your books, I have this profit leak in estimating, and I'm going to do this about it. Next to what I'm going to do about it, put a date and a time. And once you've done that, we have another little exercise. Monica, how do you know these exercises? Monica's right. Once you've done that, I'd like you to take out your phones and book a calendar appointment with yourself to do that thing. So please take a moment to do that. Oh, look, we've already got phones out. No. That was good, though.
She was serious, Dominic.
Monica's always serious. All right. While you're doing that, does anybody have an action, whichever action, that they want to share? Yes, sir. Systemizing the estimating. I have a prize for you. A system for estimating? Sure. Do you guys want to know a great system? You're welcome. A great way to put systems in place? It's super simple. It's almost too simple. After I tell you, you'll go, huh, I could have thought of that. Make a flowchart. Flowcharts are probably the greatest and most underused tool we have for creating systems. Who's laughing already? Like, I should have thought of that one. I could have said that. It's just that easy. I never get accused of being the smartest person in the room. I'm okay with that. I'm curious, though. I'm curious as hell. And I'll keep digging until I find the answer. And the answer better be simple, not complicated. So if you have a system answer, what's your name, sir? Colin, like Colin did. And the answer might be, make a flowchart to fix our estimating leak. Anybody else have an answer? Create SOPs, standard operating procedures. Good. Monica, I know you have to get on a plane, so I'm going to give you this prize and not the screwdriver, because that's why I'm giving away the screwdriver. Nobody wants the screwdriver? Yeah, no. Yeah, I'll get hit with it. All right. So please make sure you put something in your phone, a calendar appointment for yourself. Have you chosen which coffee shop you're going to go to? Don't tell anybody in your office where you're going. Turn off the phone. Go for an appointment by yourself. All right, so here's what I'd like you to do. Go back to your books again and write this down. After that exercise, here are the top 3 things I need to go do. So go ahead and write that down. The top 3 things that you need to go do. And next to each of those things, write a date and a time. What you're creating now is the same thing as when we create shop drawings for our people on the floor to build beautiful millwork, cabinetry, furniture, whatever we make. It's your blueprint. It's your plan. If I came in and said I wanted a set of kitchen cabinets, but we weren't going to do it with plans, what would you think? You're not awesome. Yeah, it's all change orders. The whole thing's a long change order. Yeah, but also you're right. I'd be nuts, right? It's just not an efficient way to build. We already know the most efficient way to build a kitchen or do architecture millwork for a law office, whatever it is to have an effective set of plans. And that's all we're talking about here. It's nothing complicated. Have an effective set of plans. All right. So our vision needs a map. So I've taken you back in time. We're now going to start moving towards the future. Are we all good with that? Because that was all a little bit humorous, a little bit fun, but we've got to get to work here. So for those of you who do listen to the show, you know I joke around a lot, but I'm serious. This is serious stuff. Our lives depend on it. People rely on us for their jobs. They're going on summer vacation because of the jobs you're bidding today. So we have to take what we do very seriously. So we need to put a plan in place that's going to work. And it's got to be what? Simple, like dead simple. So we're going to draw a funnel. Inverted triangle. It's going to start out kind of soft. Then it's going to get a little bit fuzzy. Then we're going to get a little bit of clarity. And then we're going to learn where we need to take action. So I'll give you a second to write that down because you're going to develop this little picture into quite the to-do list. So 4 stages. Simple and repeatable. This might freak you out, and I hope it does, but it actually doesn't matter who I'm showing this slide to right now. You could be veterinarians. You could be general contractors. You could be running daycares. This slide, the concept here, applies to any business. Because what we're talking about today is the business of business. We're not talking about the business of woodworking. We're talking about the business of business. That's a very important distinction. It's really important to understand. Now, this is where I said I might offend some of you. You have to stop being a woodworker. The money's not in the sawdust anymore. This is why I did not give out the screwdriver as a prize. Because I could see it come hurtling towards me at 50 miles an hour, right? So I want to be your friend and I love you, so I'm going to tell you the truth. This is not about being a great woodworker. Did you know that square is just square? And that plumb is actually just plumb. And level is level. You can't be more 1/64th of an inch better than the next guy, because 1/64th is 1/64th. Now, we're all proud of the work we do. I get it, and we're all very creative. I get that too. But you come to associations like this, you hang out with other smart people like this, because somewhere you're like, I got to do something else. I've got to get to this next level. We heard about the next level? Well, this stuff is the next level. You ready to see it? Remember I said it's going to be pretty simple? So here's some questions we're going to ask ourselves. Who are we? Oh, it's been a long time since this classroom heard a philosophy question. Who are we? Who are we as a business? I'm going to take you through an exercise in a few minutes to figure out who we really are. Now, you guys know I live in Canada, right? You can tell by my funny accent. Who thinks I have a funny accent? You all have funny accents. For a while, I lived in a place called Calgary, which is about as close to Denver as you're going to get in attitude and approach to life. And so I had a manager out there who said, Dom, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. And so one of the exercises I'm going to show you today is a real keeper. It goes to what Guy Busey was talking about when he talked about the right attitude for the people on our teams. Who here thinks they have an opportunity to lift the attitude on their team? Okay, I'm going to show you that today. And it's dead simple. But we have to be the ones who put it in place. It's up to us. I have to take the responsibility. So I'll show you that. So the answer to the question, who are we, is going to get answered here in a few minutes. There's going to be more writing. But we'll get it. So who are we? That's the very first thing. The first part of this big plan, who are we? Who am I as a company? What do we stand for? Here's a question that's going to make some of you angry. Am I a woodworking shop? Or am I a marketing company who happens to run a woodworking shop? I can see the sparks flying. Marketing I never wanted to be a marketer or a sales company. Okay. But are you a woodworking shop or are you a business that happens to be a woodworking shop? That sounds like such a simple turn of phrase, doesn't it? But go ahead and write that down. Maybe that's the question you take yourself for coffee and think about. And remember, coffee is not named Budweiser. It's coffee. You need to think. So think about that. Who are we? We're going to dig into that some more here. Before we get to the next big question, where are we going? Again, Amanda's shaking her head thinking, how did we book this speaker? Where are we going? But you know what? Really, that's the vision. That's the sightlines that we're here for. The theme of this conference is sightlines, Vision 2020. What's the future look like? Where do you want to take your business? And the beauty of a democracy like we live in is you get to go wherever you want. Nobody can tell you you can succeed, and nobody can tell you you will fail. I get to tell myself I will succeed or fail. That's the beauty of what so many people fought and died for, is that I get to be as successful as I choose to be. So I get to choose that vision for myself. My friend was working underground as a parking attendant. I was floored when I heard this. And look where he is now. And by the way, now he's like, you know, Dom, things will be different when we're at 10 million. I'm like, okay. Right? But now he's got a plan. He's done this already. He set himself a goal. I mean, you couldn't get lower than that, right? He set himself a goal, and he got there. Where do you want to get to? Then we're going to set our 2025 goals. And that's fuzzy, right? 2025 goals is fuzzy, guaranteed. Can I tell what's going to happen in the year 2025? Other than my wife will suddenly be 48 and I'll be 56? I mean, really, it's hard to project sales out that far. It's really hard to project profitability. If I own my building, I'll have some consistency there. If I have contracts in place, like Todd and I talked about, I'll have some consistency there. But I don't know, right? So it's a little bit fuzzy, but we still have to plan for it because I have to aim here or here. I have to know that I do closets, or I do architectural millwork, or I do yachts. Who are we is that first question, right? What are we really good at? And what we're really good at also comes back to what we're not good at and not going to do. And we heard that from the two gentlemen up here today as well, right? From there, we get into a little bit of a problem. This is the sticking point. And the sticking point here is that this is where many of us start and start and start and start again. And so we think, I got to go do this now. I got to go do this now, but without a big plan. And so we just get stuck on what I have to do in this quarter, and we just go take action without a bigger plan. And just to make it sound funny, all you're doing is running into the wall with your head. You're running, you're working hard, but if all you're doing is smashing your head in the wall, it gets frustrating and it gets tiring. And why should I do this? And oh my God, is this the right wall? Where am I? Right? It'd be better to have a plan. If you want to see this as a plan, it's a one-page plan. Text that number, 678-506-7543, and then you just, this code here, OPSP, then the actual one-page plan comes to you. Can I just advance slides now and show you the plan? Yeah? So this is what a one-page plan looks like when you want to get it out of, when I want to get it out of my head and onto paper. Now, did you notice that the one-page plan is actually 2 pages? The business coach, you knew he was going to get you at some point, right? But you all have printers that can print that big sheet. So it is still at a glance, right? But if you want to get this as a download, you do this yourself. You don't need me there. We're going to walk through it right now, but you don't need me in the room. But text that number, and then it automatically sends to you if you enter the code OPSP, so you have it to look at. You can read it in the plane or whatever you like to do. Are you guys okay if we go through this in a little bit of detail so you understand how that real simple funnel fits on this page? Because it does. This one-page plan is like your at-a-glance day timer, except it's your lifetimer. It's just going to tell you how to get where you want to go. The fluffy part, remember I said it was really soft? The soft part here is our core values and beliefs. Oh, there's Dom with the leprechauns again. Okay? Pink fluffy clouds and unicorn poop. We got to talk about our values? Absolutely. Everything starts with our values. Right? The values that I have as the owner are reflected in the company. Did you see the owner's attitudes here today? I don't know how well you know those two gentlemen. Did the company kind of look the way they talked and walked and sounded? It kind of did, right? You could see the way they think came out in the way that company looked when you walked through it. It's the same in yours. It's the same in mine. It is the same in my daughter's bedroom. Right? Oh, wow. There's a floor in here somewhere, right? But until I understand what my culture is, what the values of my company are, we're going to figure it out in a second, by the way, because it's a difficult exercise to understand until you've been shown how to do it, and then it's quite simple. It's quite easy. But once I understand my values, I can then figure out my purpose. And you're all going, purpose? Dom, it's to make money. That is not the answer. It is not to make money. It's to do something. None of us are in business for business reasons. We're all ultimately in business for some personal reason. Think back to why you started a company. Did you just say, I want to make money? Who wants to hear a funny Canadian saying about money? Anybody? Did you just start a company because you wanted to make hockey socks full of cash? Any hockey players here? Any hockey fans? Anybody watch hockey? Okay, there you go. You know hockey socks are big, right? Yep. So hockey socks that means a lot of cash. But is that why you started the business? Because you wanted to make hockey socks full of cash? No, there's some other reason behind that. By the way, if you want a really good book on that, has anybody read a book by Robert Kiyosaki? Yeah? Kiyosaki's from Hawaii. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Has anybody read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Great book. If you haven't read it, go get it. And if you have read it, read it again. I'll tell you about a funny mistake in hearing. I was coaching a guy, this was years, like 20 years ago. And I said, okay, here's the book you need to read. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So that was our coaching meeting. I go talk to him the next week. Did you get the book? No, I didn't have a chance to go to the bookstore. The next week, did you get the book? Yeah, I went in there and the lady said they didn't have it. I said, what are you talking about? They don't have it. This is a best-selling book. It's everywhere. She goes, no. He goes, I asked them for it. Do you have Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And I'm like, no. Not Rich Dead, Poor Dead. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay, I'll go get that book. It's definitely a book worth reading if you want to understand why you're in business and the different stages of business that you're going through. It's a simple read. Guys, you can keep it in the bathroom. Have I sold you on this book? Like, it's simple. But it's powerful. We're still talking about that book today. It's a great book. All right, so you're going to want to figure out your core values and your beliefs. Those are the things that we should and shouldn't do. Then we figure out our purpose. Why are we here? Right? You get to really put some great things down, things that will inspire your team, that go beyond we're here to make money. It has to go beyond we're here to make money. Money is cold. Talking about money, that's hot. We can all agree. But money's cold. Money doesn't care what you do. We care about money more than money cares about us. So why am I in business? What is it I'm here to do? Then, remember that 5-year, what's 2025 going to look like? That's this section right here. There's the future date. You get to write that in yourself. Where my revenue is going to be. What's my profit going to be? You just write it in. All I'm asking you to do is fill in the boxes while you're having a coffee. And then, in your calendar, set an appointment with yourself to review this sheet in 3 months. And just keep working towards it, right? What you'll see here is that you've got actions in this section here. So we've already done actions today. I've already taken you through the bones of this exercise today. You've already written down 3 things you need to do to fix your profit leaks, right? You write that down? Okay, you've just filled in 3 of these boxes right here. 1, 2, 3. I won't get into some of the other more technical ones, but then we go down to what's our goal in 1 year? And this is where our plan starts to get a lot firmer. We start to understand, what do we want to do this year? Where do we want to go this year? Maybe we just hold our revenues steady. We estimate the jobs we've been estimating. We keep winning the jobs we've been winning, but we go get profitable at the work we're already doing. Wouldn't that be crazy? Right? Did you know there's 8 profit leaks in any business? So how many of you are bummed out that there's 8? Right? Like in estimating alone, there's 25. And I found all of these, no magic, I found all of these one at a time in boardrooms all around the world with a closed door. Just like, oh, there's a profit leak, we fix that. Right? How many profit leaks are in your business? For every dollar you make, there's a profit leak taking it away. What's the impact of a $100 profit leak? Has anybody ever thought about that? Write this question down. What's the impact of losing $100 in profit? What is the impact to me of losing $100 in profit? Think about this for a second. What margin are you running the business at now? If it's, thank you, yeah. What's your name, sir? Greg. Greg's muttering to himself already. It's working. But if you have a 10% margin, that's $1,000 of sales for that $100, that $100 mistake. That $100 machining mistake is $1,000 more in estimating you've got to do, right? So what's the impact of $100? It's easy to look at it and say, oh, it's just $100. I mean, it's just a one-time thing. But that's $1,000 more in sales I have to go make to get that $100 back. It's a real number, right? It's a real number. So think now, if you had to save $100 in your company right now, what would you do? Please go ahead and write that down for yourself. I need to save $100 in the company right now. Is it in estimating? I think somebody just fired their wife. Not the answer. So you're going to take his credit cards away? Good call. Oh. All right, so they could be in the areas of sales. Believe it or not, sales is a profit leak. If you're not selling properly, if we don't have a system for selling, for instance, if we're not capturing change orders, that's a profit leak. That's money going right out the door, and we heard about it right here today. Not from me, not from some guy who came up here and speaks to cabinet makers and thinks he knows what he's talking about, who said the same thing as the cabinet makers said. Yeah, owners, just like me, right? Maybe it's in sales. Maybe it's in estimating. Maybe it's in the reports you're getting. How many of us, okay, I'm going to ask this. How many people in this room do the finances for the company? Do the finances for the company? Okay, how many of you in this room do the finances for the company and then have to hand it to somebody else in the company to review? How many of you are reviewing the reports you get? Oh, good. I'm going to cut you a slack, though. Not everybody can read a financial report the way it's laid out because it's boring. It kind of sucks. It's another language. And so if you're not reading the financials, get it turned into graphs and charts with colors. It's okay. Right? A bar chart or a pie graph, man, can that tell you a lot of information? Because we don't need to know the numbers as much as I don't need to know the numbers as much as I need to see the patterns in the numbers. I save so much time just looking for patterns in the numbers that tell me something's wonky. Do you guys want a funny story that's not even in this presentation that has to do with it? It doesn't even have to do with woodwork, but it's a good story. You guys want to hear it? Okay, so I told you I was running the pharmacy, right? Which makes sense because I'm an archaeologist. So in the pharmacy, I've got a call center of 120 people. Now, these staff are great people, but I basically stole them from Wendy's and McDonald's. And then a bunch of the other people are medical office assistants and pharmacy technicians who we've trained and put in the call center. They're doing a great job on the phones, answering people's questions and filling medication orders. So I asked my call center manager, who started, like we stole her from Wendy's. We brought her in-house. We trained her. I showed her the culture thing I'm about to show you in a few minutes. And she just rocketed. Like she found her place in this world. Most wonderful girl you've ever met. Totally committed, smart, on it. Anybody would hire her any minute. So I said, okay, always bring me the report that shows us the top buyers in all the categories we have. So she brings me the reports and I'm looking through them. And then somebody comes in and says, hey, Dom, you want to go for lunch? And I said, yeah. So I had the sheets in my hand and I just dropped them on my desk and I went for lunch. So I came back and the two category sheets that fell over top of each other, one of them was birth control and the other one was pet medications. Crazy. People who bought pet medications from our company also bought birth control. What am I going to do with that little gem of information? How the heck do you script that in to increase sales, right? Without offending anybody. But we did it. So I have fun with whatever I do. You got to, right? I mean, this is a good report. First, you got to tell everybody about it. Look at this report, right? But then we went back to the software system and we put prompts in there. And those prompts said that if somebody is buying birth control, here's the question you ask. Okay, who's thinking of what question you might ask? if somebody's phoning. The look on your face is like, I might kill this man. What did he say? No, the really simple question was, is that a dog I hear in the background? And then what would the lady say? No, it's a cat. Or yes, it's a dog. Or no, I don't know what you're hearing. Okay, no problem. But then we'd be off on this conversation about heartworm medications. Take the card, right? So look for the patterns in the numbers. The patterns will tell you stuff. It's the patterns. So all this goes back to, if you're getting financial reports, if you're looking for profit leaks in your business, and you think it might come from you not getting reports because you're not reviewing the reports because they're boring the way they're written, turn them into color. It's allowed. There's programs that do it. Just print it in color as graphs. It really works. Remember I said this stuff's impactful but not complicated? It's not complicated. The hard part of all of this is keeping it simple. It's very easy to overcomplicate things. That's why I said flowcharts are one of the greatest ways to make simple, followable, repeatable systems. All right. So again, if you want that report and you want to work on it on your own while you're having coffee, if you text that number and that code, then you get it. All right, we're going to move to a slightly different topic, but this goes to culture. Remember that soft, fluffy stuff that I said was at the top of the pile? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? So what happens is, as an owner, I have to be the champion of the culture. And it gets tiring, doesn't it? Like, why am I always the person that's picking up a piece of paper from the floor? Why am I always the guy walking through the shop and moving something out of the way so that people see it? So you do this. Move it out of the way, folks. Yeah? Or you sweep like this. So they see you, right? All we want them to do is go, oh, the boss is sweeping. Maybe we should sweep. There's an easier way, and you don't have to sweep. Who wants to learn that way? So culture starts at the top. Do you guys know what this is? It's a fish. What kind of fish is it? It's a dead fish. So the Australians have a good saying, and they say it in Australian, and I'm about to try it in an Aussie accent. Are there any Aussies here? No, good. Okay. So they say, a fish stinks from the head down, mate. Right? A fish stinks from the head down. What does that mean when we're thinking about culture? Where's the problem in your company's culture right now? At the top. Thank you. Yeah. It starts with me. If my people have a bad attitude, I have either hired the wrong people or I've hired good people and I messed them up. There's the math, folks. Right? I'm a super nice guy, but I'm blunt. You either hired the wrong people, bad on all of us, or we hired good people and we messed them up. So I'm going to show you a way to fix that and make that not happen. Is that good? Say yeah. All right, so please draw this line. You're going to need an entire page for this. So if you've got a free blank page, do it. I'd prefer that it's in the bound book. There's some extras here if you've run out of paper. Has anybody run out of paper? Needs another book? No? Okay, so I want you to do in the bound book because Post-it notes and, sheets of paper that you tear off the end, that's not an owner's toolkit at all. We work in bound books. Post-it notes are meant to be temporary. Somebody comes to your meeting with Post-it notes, send them out to go get a bound book, and then come back. There's nothing good in a Post-it note. I mean, if you're doing some of the Kaizen stuff, I get it, but that's not this stuff, right? All right, so draw a line right through the middle of the page. That line, I'd like you to write on that line the words choice. That line represents choices I make. And I'm either above that line or below that line. Above the line, we call that person Victor. Is anybody in this room named Victor? Is that your middle name? Joe Kenobi? That's a very Star Wars name, you know that, right? Obi-Joe Kenobi? That's going to stick, isn't it? It's been stuck already? All right, so the people who are above the line, we would refer to them as victors. What's the opposite of a victor? Victim. Oh. The tone in the room came down just on that word. The other word we have for people who are above the line is they're above the line. And people who are below the line, we call them below the line. By the way, here's a serious point that I've learned through painful trial. What I'm about to show you cannot be shared with your spouse until you show them the whole deck. Right? You'll see why in a minute, but if you go home and talk to your spouse and tell them they are on one side of this line, either above or below, and you're all smart enough to figure out where this thing's going, you are going to be very cold when you're sleeping tonight. So people above the line, we also call them winners, and the opposite of a winner is? Isn't that an interesting answer? We all already knew the answer, and we haven't even seen the left side of this page. So I have a slide deck which you can have if you want to present this later. I'll do it right now, and it's being recorded, so you can watch how I do it before you present it to your team. But I want you to present it to your team like that. Everybody knows what's above the line, it's a winner, and what's the opposite? Team. And everybody in the room will say, loser. Well, loser's not the word we use. But what did everybody just hear? It's loser. But we're going to say whiner. Oh, the energy in the room just gets sucked out. Negative air. This is how I draw them. This is somebody who's above the line. You can tell that I'm also not a cabinetry engineer. You're free to draw a better above-the-line person if you like. But there are words, there's characteristics of people who are above. Is it that bad that you're giggling that hard? There's characteristics of people who are above the line that we would all recognize right away. And those characteristics, the way those people are, is really important. And so it's good to have some key words that help us understand who they are. Because there's those people too. Who wants to be this person? That's the fish, yeah. All right, people above the line. One of their characteristics is a word that starts with the letter P. It is positive. What's another one I heard? Proactive, did somebody say? I heard it here. Another word that starts with P that's somebody who's a winner, who's above the line. Anything? Proactive. I'm not repeating that one. R. What do you think R stands for? They take responsibility. Could you imagine having a team that took responsibility? How about O? What's a good word for somebody who's a winner in this world? Optimist. Good. Other O words. Ownership. This guy's seen my slides. Next word, V. They have values. They have vision. Wow, you guys are knocking it out of the park. I want the people on my team to have a vision. I don't actually care what their after-work hobbies are. If they're in the choir, I want them to be in the best choir in the city. I want them to be really into choir, right? It's the same reason that if you see somebody apply who's got no woodworking skill but is an Eagle Scout, will you hire them? What is it? Anybody here an Eagle Scout? Nice. Yeah, what does it take to be an Eagle Scout? Yeah, it's not a halfway thing. And what age do you become an Eagle Scout? Under 18. When do you have to start the process? 13? Too late for me. But I already know a lot about that person. That was a vision. They had to start when they were 13 to be an Eagle Scout. That one's really obvious, right? But what are the other things we look for in people's resumes that tell us they have some sort of vision in their life? Because people below the line get to be defined too, and you're going to love this one. All right, let's keep going. People above the line are also consumed with excellence. They just want to be great. They want to be really good at what they do. And if they make a mistake, they actually feel bad for making a mistake. Do you guys want to see what people below the line are described as? Mm-hmm. They place blame. They make. Why is this one so much easier to do? They place blame, they make excuses. They are negative. They're in denial. It wasn't me, it was traffic. You know, they've been working on the freeway for about 3 months, and it makes me late every day. Hey? Like, if you should put together a book of the craziest thing employees say, right? Like, with a straight face, right? Yeah, my car blew up again. Again? I've never had a car blow up. I've had lots of cars. Trucks, vans, none of them blown up. Yours blew up again? And they're in denial. It wasn't me. It's not me. You don't understand. Finishing doesn't finish right. We're packing it up too quickly. It's not dry. The back dock is too cold. Everything's delaminating before we get there. I don't know what they're saying. I can't even see their way of seeing the world. And so what I do is when somebody starts on my team, this is the second training slide I show them. This is the second training slide I show them. And what does that do? What kind of expectation does that set with somebody who's now on my team? What do they know I'm going to expect? Above the line. Yeah, do they want to be seen as a whiner? Quickly translate the word whiner. Loser. You've seen it only once. And you saw it about 6 minutes ago. Right? So I can have this slide available for you as well if you want to present it to your team. It's really important to understand this. Deliver this to your team and believe in it. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, scarcity. How did I forget scarcity? We had too many things on there. I didn't bother. So somebody who's truly below the line, you could give them a brick of gold, and they would say, yeah, it's so heavy. Gold is down today. Jim got the good parking spot. I'm going to have to carry this all the way out. Right? When Todd wins, Jim loses. Why does it have to be like that? But I will tell you this. We all have existing businesses now. If you deliver this presentation to your team, somebody's going to quit. Name who that person is. I don't want it to be you. Right? We just finished. Who are we? So it sounds like a soft and fluffy question, and every time I bring up culture and values and vision, people are like, oh, you know what, he'll stop in a minute. Smile. Let's get to the meeting. No, this is the meeting. It really is. Everything starts with our values, right? Everything. Could you imagine your family if your family wasn't held together by similar values? I don't think that would be a family, would it? That'd be weird. That's why in-laws are so much fun. They come from a different set of values. Going back to my earlier point about taking care of my in-laws forever. Right? Where are we going? Well, that plan, or this plan that I'm talking about here, that plan will tell you where you want to go. I can't tell you where you want to go. I can ask great questions, and I can provide goalposts and perspective, but I can't tell you where you want to go. You have to say where you want to go. And then people like me are out there to make sure you get there, that you find the shortcuts, that you do the right things in the right order. So I'd like you to write down the top 3 people in your company. You guys recognize Tina Fey? So this is Tina Fey as a winner, and this is Tina Fey as a loser. Just so you know. So I'd like you to write down in those boxes winners and losers in your company, and then next to that, the time impact in a week that a winner or a loser, a whiner, has. And is that person a cancer or a cure? Fun exercise. By the way, this holds true. If you are here as part of the leadership team with the owner of the company, they brought you here because they trust and respect you. And so you have people on your team on the floor that are looking to you for leadership as well. This is not just for owners. You can actually deliver this thing I showed you to kids' soccer team, right? To your choir. What does it mean for our choir to be a team? We've got to be a certain type of person, right? Whatever group you're part of, this can be applied anywhere. Name those people. All right, you guys want to start talking about impact now? This comes from a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Who's heard of that book? Great book. If you haven't heard of it, the E does not stand for e-commerce. It is The Entrepreneurial Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Okay? But he talks about 3 ways of seeing the world, and this ties very nicely to the theme of this conference, which is sightlines, which is vision, which is where we're going. This is how an archaeologist business person draws an eye. Right there. That's an eye, and it's looking forward, right? To the right. Yeah. So we call that person the entrepreneur. It took me a very long time to be comfortable calling myself an entrepreneur, because it sounds a bit scammy, to be honest. Right? There's a lot of scammy entrepreneurs out there. I am, as my wife has said many times, an entrepreneur. I don't need a lot of handrails. If I want to go do something, I'll figure out how to do it. And if I really want to do it, I'll just go do it. But that's the same way you started your shop. You know you're in the entrepreneurial mindset when you ask yourself certain questions. And those questions always start the same way. They start with the words, how can I? Or what if? The entrepreneurial question grabbed you when you made the decision to come to this meeting. How can I hang out with other people who are aiming forward in life? What if I learned some great things that I've just been stuck on for a while? What if I got around other great people? Those are entrepreneurial questions. Very, very important questions. And then you took action and you got here. So we've got somebody looking forward. This is how an archaeologist business person draws an eye looking backward. And this is the manager. The manager asks questions as well. The manager asks questions that relate to measurement. Now, I want to point out that both of these eyes are in me. It's a tension in my brain that's pulling against me all the time. Guy Busey talked about this. He said there's something that has to come first, and there's something that has to come last, right? It's a tough decision, but you know what? It's only the best surfers that ride the biggest waves. The reason you're the leader is because you can be the leader. You got to make the tough call. Something comes first, something comes second. I know you're not offended. We'll get where we got to go, right? This is a tension in my mind. The entrepreneur and the manager fighting against this one here. Does anybody recognize these eyes? If the entrepreneur deals in the future and the manager deals in the past, where does the technician, this person's called, where does this eye set look? Doesn't. Yeah, it's just today. This is doing the work. Earlier today, I said the money's not in the sawdust anymore, right? If you came to this event, it's because you get that the money's not in the sawdust anymore. You've crossed over in your mind to another place. You're actually in that next level. Maybe you've just started, maybe you're well into it. Either way, congratulations. This is exactly where you need to be. But being the technician means you have answers, not questions. Right? Let me do a quick test for everybody here. Right now in this room, in my business, the business of Dominic Rubino, which one of these three people am I being? Am I being the entrepreneur in my business? Am I being the manager in my business? Or am I being the technician in my business? Yeah, why technician? Who was that? Yeah, I have to sing for my supper. Like, I've got to work right now. Yeah. By the same token, which one of those three roles are you fulfilling in your business right now? Entrepreneur. Actually, this is very good because usually rooms get it wrong. Yeah, you guys are all in entrepreneur mode. When you're sitting in something like this, when you come to an event like this, you're firmly in that future-focused, how can I get where I need to go mode. So, thumbs up. Well done. That's where we want to be. All right, please go to your books and write down the top 3 things you've learned in this piece of the presentation so far. Please write down the top 3 things you've learned in this piece of the presentation so far. What do you think I'm going to ask next? Pardon me? Who wants to share? Yeah, sure. Do you want to share one? Oh. Somebody from this side of the room. Does anybody want to share one of the things they've picked up from this part of the presentation? Yes, sir.
The importance of the action plan for moving forward.
Yeah, having a plan moving forward. Thank you. Who am I? Yeah. Do you think your shop reflects who you are right now? Yeah? Good. Do you have anybody on your team that came out screaming as the below-the-line person? Had some. Yeah, they opted out. Oh, good, good. It's painful. It's got to be done. Yeah, painful at first, yeah. Thank you. All right, somebody from the middle here. Takeaway so far. Yes, sir. The future's coming fast. What did you do in the exercise? My kids are going to be how old? Was it? Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be tough turning 30 for you. Thank you. And there was an answer up here?
Not just do the plan, review it, and follow up on the plan.
Yeah, thank you. Review the plan, right? What if you just glanced at the shops once, the shop drawings once, and say, ah, now I got it. Would that work? No. Thank you, Radu. Okay, this section here. Who's got one for us? Monica.
I'm kind of tempted to take this picture about the culture with the proof and the bends and look at every single guy that we have.
Person. Monica.
Yeah, who's above the line and who's below the line.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You should check and see who's above the line and who's below the line, right? There's an impact to it. We talk about the revenue responsibility per hour. Who here has ever heard me talk about revenue responsibility per hour? A couple of you have that listen to the show. You guys want to see this really quick? The impact of a below the line person comes in this. I want you to take your company revenue. So I've done a couple of examples here for you. It doesn't matter what your company revenue is, right? But write that number right here. What is my current revenue? So my top line sales this year. How many hours will you work this year? Now you could see that just as a joke, I put 2,000 up here, that you'll work 2,000 hours, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks, rough, that kind of math. If you work 3,000 hours a year, that's okay, just whatever that number is. But do the math for yourself. And that means your current hourly rate, I'd like you to fill in right here. For quick reference, if you run I'll just do this, $1 million business, and you work 2,000 hours a year, go ahead and laugh, doesn't matter. That means your hourly rate, your revenue responsibility per hour is $500 per hour. Do you know what that means? That means that when a sales rep stops in for half an hour, he just cost you $250. He or she better have some value to put on the table, otherwise you get to stand up, open the door and say thank you, make an appointment next time. I know I sound like a dick and I don't care. I don't. You know why I don't care? Because I have a revenue responsibility per hour. It's $500. Was I allowed to swear? The mic's still on. All right. So you're on probation, Dom. The next 5 minutes. But it's really important, right? Now, does that mean that you're going to suddenly bill yourself out as a project manager at $500 per hour? Is that what I'm talking about? No. It means it's my responsibility to make sure that $500 an hour top line is being produced in my organization. It's got to be coming in, and it's got to be going out. You know the hard part about being a business coach? Is nobody ever talks to me because they want the number to stay the same. They always want this. Well, this is my target revenue. This is my goal. I want to work less, and I want to make more. Go at it, Dom. What do you got? And if I don't like your answers, I'm going to hang up the phone, right? Okay, fair enough. I've been at it 20 years, and I've had trouble losing weight. So fill that number in. What number do you want it to be? So, and again, remember I said it doesn't matter what your revenue is, it's your profitability, right? But for the sake of this exercise, fill this in. What's your revenue responsibility per hour? What am I responsible for in my company? I have to do stuff at that rate all the time. And if I want to grow, I have to do it at a higher rate, all right? Take out your phones, please. I'm going to ask you to make an appointment for yourself. This is the final concluding exercise of the whole weekend. Doesn't have to do anything with what I've talked about. It can be following up with somebody that you met, making sure you do something you heard about, putting in place something you learned. Make an appointment with yourself to do something based on what you learned in this conference. I'll give you a second to do that.